So today we're diving into an ancient idea that feels more relevant now than ever. It's called Soma. In yoga and Ayurveda, it's known as the nectar of immortality, the very essence of bliss. But in our world of nonstop notifications and constant burnout, you have to ask, where do we even find it anymore? Let's get into it. We're all looking for that feeling, that sense of real contentment and inner peace. But in our hyper-connected lives, it so often feels like it's just out of reach. It really makes you wonder, are we even looking in the right places? Now, this search for bliss, it's not some new thing. Ancient traditions actually had a name for it, Soma. And it represents this deep human desire, not just to live a long time, but to live a life that's just brimming with vitality and a true sense of well-being. The thing is, our modern world has created its own versions of Soma, but they're all external. We're constantly chasing that feeling of fulfillment through the next piece of tech, a bigger screen, or more intense entertainment, always hoping that the next upgrade is the one that's finally going to bring us that lasting satisfaction. But there's a real cost to this constant external search. We really risk becoming passive spectators in our own lives, just consuming experiences instead of actually creating them. As the source material puts it so powerfully, we can end up with no life of our own, apart from the media we consume. So this leads us to a really important idea, false somas. These are the modern substitutes for well-being that promises pleasure, but in reality, they just deplete our inner resources over time. And when you put them side by side, the contrast is, it's pretty stark. On one side, you've got the high-tech somas, constant media, drugs, junk food, and virtual reality. They all offer a quick hit of stimulation. But on the other side, you have the inner spiritual somas. These are things that you cultivate through a mindful diet, through your breath, through meditation. And these don't just stimulate, they actually nourish and rejuvenate you from the inside out. And you can see how this plays out, right? We get hooked on the jolts we get from negative news. We might use medication to mask the symptoms of a life that's out of balance. We crave these addictive foods that have zero nutritional value. And we escape into digital worlds, which just disconnects us further from nature and, honestly, from ourselves. It's always a quick fix that, in the long run, just leaves us drained. So, if this modern approach is kind of failing us, what's the alternative? Well, ancient Ayurvedic wisdom gives us this incredible framework built around two forces, Agni, the fire, and Soma, the nectar. And it turns out, true health is all about the balancing act between them. Okay, first, let's talk about Agni. Think of it like your inner furnace. It's the energy that powers your digestion, your metabolism, your drive. You absolutely need it for life. But when that fire gets out of control, stoked by constant stress and overstimulation, that's when it turns into burnout. And the perfect counterbalance to that fire is Soma. Soma is the cooling, nourishing nectar. It represents this calm, lunar energy. It's our vital fluids. It's that deep inner calm. It is literally the essence of rejuvenation, the force that soothes, builds, and restores us. And this is such a core principle in Hatha Yoga. I want you to imagine this for a second. You have this cooling nectar, Soma, located in your soft palate. And down below, in your belly, you have this digestive fire, Agni. A long, healthy life depends on keeping that fire from rising up and just burning away your precious Soma. Our modern high-stress lifestyle, it's like we're just constantly cranking up the heat on that fire. All right, so this all sounds really good in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we cultivate this inner nectar in our day-to-day lives? Well, the good news is there are some very practical, very real ways to get started. And it all starts with your diet. Now, the key insight here is all about the sweet taste. A rejuvenative diet isn't about cutting out all sweets. Not at all. It's about embracing high-quality, natural sweetness. The kind you get from fruits or raw honey, which actually helps rebuild our body's tissues. The other tastes are important for sure, but that natural sweetness is really the foundation of rejuvenation. So let's get specific. Ghee or clarified butter is fantastic for the nervous system. Good quality coconut and olive oils are also amazing nutritive agents. Fresh dairy can really support your vitality, and you can easily add rejuvenative herbs like ashwagandha to your routine to help replenish that inner soma. And it goes beyond just diet. We can actually rejuvenate our senses. So instead of constantly bombarding them with artificial stuff, try to intentionally connect with nature. Listen to the wind, gaze at the sky, smell the earth after it rains. This practice of sensory withdrawal, it's known as pratyahara, and it's an incredible way to calm your nervous system and restore your inner vitality. Okay, so we've covered the body and the senses, but now let's move to the most profound level of rejuvenation, the mind and the spirit. Because this is where the true power of Soma is really found. You see, true, deep rejuvenation, it just can't happen in a noisy mind. That constant internal chatter, the worry, it creates this friction that just wears down our mental energy. So the very first step toward renewal is cultivating some inner silence. You know what causes the mind to age? It's not just the passage of time, it's the accumulation of mental clutter. Old ideas, beliefs we're stuck in, unresolved emotions. This stuff literally blocks our perception and stops us from seeing the world and ourselves with fresh eyes. To stay vital, we have to consciously create space in our mind. So how do we create that space? Well, this is where yogic practices like meditation and dharana, which is the practice of focused concentration, come into play. By focusing our attention on something, whether it's our breath or a mantra, we can start to quiet that mental chatter. We clear out the clutter, and we create this calm, open space for the nectar of inner Soma to naturally arise. And this brings us to the ultimate point. Soma isn't a plant, it's not a food, it's not even a technique. The most powerful Soma is the bliss of our own inner awareness. It's the peace that comes from connecting with our true self, that timeless part of us that exists beyond the daily hustle. That is our connection to eternity. So really, every single day we face a choice. We can reach for the fleeting stimulation of the external world, all those false Somas, or we can choose to cultivate the lasting, rejuvenating bliss that's already within us. The ancient wisdom is crystal clear. The choice and the power is ours. So which one will you nourish?